We tend to all generally work under the same general direction, let's say, but I think Susan would probably confirm, Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales, we do have our own little approaches to various aspects of education and training, and so we implement something slightly differently. But it's fair to say the 4 parts of the United Kingdom, we're all challenged basically by the same difficulties as we move forward. I work for the Department for Employment and Learning, located in Belfast. And it's the government department. Some of us were talking at lunchtime about the different ministries, government departments. Some of you use the word ministries. We don't have responsibility for schools. We have responsibility for post-compulsory education and training. And sometimes that's a bit of a disadvantage in that there can be a lack of, there can be a disjoin, let's say, in policies. But it's, you know, we do work very well with our colleagues in the Department of Education. But the Department of Education is responsible for schools. We're responsible for compulsory education ends in Northern Ireland at 16. So for those who don't continue to 18 and into a more academic route, they come to us. Adults come on our programs as well. We offer programs that I think a lot of you term as second chance. We have further education colleges where they would come back in and do second chance education type programs. But we would also have vocational skills development, and we also offer programs for adults who are trying to get back into the workforce. So we tend to term them further education, training, that's the skills development, and employment programs, employment being for adults trying to get back into the workforce. You'll hear me use the term essential skills. Essential skills, we decided, we used to call them basic skills, but way back in the end of the 1990s, we decided that we would term it essential skills. We felt it was a more positive meaning rather than basic skills, which implied a deficit. So we identified the term essential skills as being the 3 skills, literacy, numeracy and ICT, necessary to function in the workplace, but also in life for social inclusion and success in the workplace. Now, the IELTS study in 1996, I think generally in the UK, was a big shock to us all, because that was the first sort of significant measure we had of where we were. I don't know where Scotland were, but England, I think, had 23%. We were 24% of adults in Northern Ireland performed at the lowest level, corresponding to around 250,000 people in Northern Ireland. I've put in PIAC, we've improved to 18%. We haven't made the inroads that we wanted to, but at least this figure has improved significantly. But that was a shock horror moment really for us. 24% performing at the lowest level of literacy. And it was a real wake-up call, because we knew there were problems, but we had no idea of the extent of the problems. Other things that emerged in that study, the older age groups were worse than the 16 to 25-year-olds. 36% of unemployed people were in this category, no surprise there. And 44% of a term we use, economically inactive, they're people who are not looking for work, they're not working and they're not looking for work, they're not contributing to the economy, were at this level. And 19% of people in employment were at this level. So we knew we had major work to do. We had work to do in the workplace. 19% of employed people were at this level. 36% obviously not able to get into employment were at this level. And the adults were a significant concern to us. So it was a very depressing picture and a big wake-up call. The output of that was it was launched 2002, but we officially give it 2003. I think it was devised in 2002. It was before my time, before I came into the department to work in this role. But we launched our Essential Skills for Living strategy. And it was the result of much soul searching and joint working, cross-ministerial, all different stakeholders consulted, etc. And it basically, it had 5 key strands. I've identified 4 here. The one I've left off, there was to be a big focus on quality. But We introduced a regional curriculum. We introduced national recognised qualifications at 5 levels. Now, they're not the PIAC levels, they're the levels that we identified, and I'll speak about those in a moment. We standardised tutor qualifications with a big focus on initial tutor training, a licence to practice, in other words. Because I think, like many of you, we had a huge cohort of volunteer tutors, all with differing levels of experience, educational backgrounds, teacher training, no teacher training. We had a big body of volunteer people. And so what we wanted to do was to say, if you're going to deliver essential skills on this curriculum, targeting these qualifications, you must be qualified on this programme. We're very controlling. And we also brought in continuous professional development opportunities. Now, why are we so controlling? We paid for all of this. So we you know, as government, we said essential skills training will be free to those who need it. Teacher education will be free. So therefore, we mandated which programme. Okay, because a big focus of this, if we were going to spend this huge amount of money, and we reckoned we had no choice, given the 1996 outcomes, we knew we had to invest significantly to turn this drowning ship around. We knew we had to invest significantly from government, but we weren't going to just give money out. We were going to control very much how the money was spent. Shortly after our essential skills strategy, around the same time, we also launched the Northern Ireland Skills Strategy. Now, that was skills in general, and that identified priority sectors we needed to grow our economy. Typically engineering, financial services, ICT. And so we said that the money that we put into funding vocational education and training, priority will be given to these. So we'll put more money into these. But an essential part of the skills strategy was obviously the essential skills. And I tend to sort of see what we were saying in the skills strategy. We identified 3 cohorts that we needed to really focus on. Those who were excluded from the workforce because they didn't have these essential skills. Those entering the workforce, very much are school leavers who were coming out with inadequate literacy and numeracy. And I think from a lot of what I've heard this week, we're probably quite different in Norway in that, but we do have too many school leavers who come out without the basics in literacy and numeracy. So the entering the workforce would be primarily that cohort. And the existing employees, because we knew now we had roughly about a fifth of them, or 20% in the workplace, you know, who didn't have substantial levels of literacy and numeracy. So that was all part of our skills strategy. Now, the 5 levels I mentioned, in spending our money, we said, if someone turns up and says, I have literacy needs, or if through community voluntary, I'll talk about the organisations we charged with delivering this training afterwards, but if it was, say, a community voluntary organisation, someone working out in the community, and they had a group of learners who needed literacy development. The first stage, we said, must involve robust initial assessment to determine what exactly that learner needed. So based on the initial assessment, you then had to plan for one of these levels. And remember, everybody had, all of these were assessed. Now, when I say assessed, people think, oh my goodness, you put these people through exams. It was very gentle assessment, very, because we were conscious that with adults with severe literacy difficulties, you can't take them in and put them, say, right, your exam starts now. You know, it wasn't that kind of assessment. But we needed to be able to measure the impact of the money we were spending, and we're very data driven about all our programs. We need data coming out at the end telling us who has achieved what, and we also wanted to create a ladder through which people could progress. So most people came in, entry level 1 really would have been very, low level, and thankfully we didn't have very many coming in at entry level 1. Most people tended to come in the entry level 3, level 1. Level 2 for us was the target, because That is the level we deemed and still consider the level at which an individual should be able to demonstrate literacy and numeracy skills to function effectively in the workplace and to allow them to progress in their career. Jasmine.
Is that the same as the level 3 in the International Adult Literacy Survey? Yours level 2.
Now, where we our level 2, I think I'd have to check that because I'm so used to our levels.
I think according to the European qualification framework, then entry level is like level 1.
Right, okay, yeah. Level 2 on the NQF, I know it's our level 2s on the National Qualifications Framework, but where it relates, but I can check that and come back to you, okay?
Is that different from the ESOL levels?
Yes, it is. Yeah. It is different from the ESOL levels, yeah. Okay. Now, where do we deliver these essential skills? We have 6 large further education colleges, Northern Ireland small, just under 2 million people. We have 6 large further education colleges spread throughout the province. They're our main deliverers. We also we know that individuals with severe literacy difficulties will not go into a city centre college. So we know that we need what we call community or voluntary organisations to engage with them in their local areas. So we launched a pilot, we piloted a programme which was very successful called Learner Access and Engagement. So we got the colleges to work with the local providers, and the local providers engaged the learners, brought them into their centres, and the staff from the college went out and delivered. So that way we ensured that the staff were qualified and that quality was our main driving force. So the staff went out into that network. That proved very successful. Training for success, those we have 44 providers, the 6 colleges and 38 other providers who deliver our training for success. That's vocational training for the school leavers who haven't yet got employment. So essential skills, a big part of that. Apprenticeships, employment programs, this one's finishing up and we're replacing it, but again, adults who are trying to get into employment, essential skills, a big part of that. And then we had family support programs. We did, one thing I've realised this week is we don't nearly do enough in the workplace, and some of the examples that I've heard this week have given me ideas. We haven't really penetrated into the workforce enough, but we did have some projects going with trade unions. Extended schools programs where we were working with schools in the evenings, lunchtimes, to get access to parents, and prisons. Big, obviously, cohort there in need of essential skills development. Now, the teacher education. We said that from now on, everyone, even existing tutors, right, because we recognise the scale of the programme, we were very reliant on these voluntary tutors, but we needed to get them upskilled. We needed to get them to make sure that their own literacy and numeracy, etc., was good enough, and to develop their pedagogy. So we said everyone delivering essential skills funded by us must complete the certificate and in the teaching and management of literacy and the certificate in the teaching and management of numeracy. We sent them to university for a part-time course. Okay. Now on our NQF it was a level 5. It wasn't a degree programme. It was a part-time programme. To achieve the diploma you had to commit to 2 years part-time. The first year the certificate focused very much on your own standard of literacy and numeracy to make sure it was good enough, and the second year very much on the pedagogy. Okay. The entry requirements for those programs. So we those programs aim to ensure that the subject specialism was adequately developed along with the pedagogy. It was part-time delivery. These are UK terms. 5 GCSEs. Oh, sorry, I've got something in the middle there. 2 of which must be at A level. A level is normally what you would achieve to go to university. And you must have English and maths at GCSE. GCSE is our level 2 equivalent. That, in my view, was too low, much too low, because we were saying to do this course, you needed a level 2. And then a year later, 2 years part-time, we were charging these people to deliver. So that was too low. But our concern was to build capacity. We paid for everybody to do this. Entry requirement for the diploma, you had to have the certificate, so it was a building moving forward when you did the diploma. The content, language literacy and adult learning, policy and practice and adult basic education. They did a work-based project around their own pedagogical experiences, and they had to be teaching for 40 hours in order to get this project done. For the diploma, you can see there they had to be teaching for 80 hours. Now, we trained over 1,000 tutors, paid for it over a period of, I suppose, about 7 or 8 years. Over 1,000 tutors trained, nearly 150 individuals have achieved qualifications at the various levels. Some of them, have gone on to, where emphasis is always on level 2. And we have been quite successful in getting individuals in on that ladder and moving them towards level 2. However, the big thing for us was, as the essential skills was moving forward, we were also developing our requirements for vocational tutors. So we were saying that if you're a vocational tutor, we want you to have parity of esteem with school teachers. And I think Joan talked about this the other day. We have a General Teaching Council, which is a registration body for teachers. And then we had college lecturers and vocational tutors who sat outside this and who were lesser qualified. So we said we were busy implementing a policy as the essential skills was rolling out, which was saying basically you must have a degree in your vocational subject. So if you're teaching engineering, you must have a degree in engineering. If it's construction, you must have a relevant degree. And you must do a 2-year part-time postgraduate certificate in education. And then you're equitable in status to a school teacher. So we were putting all this emphasis, and we've achieved all of that, into our vocational teachers, lecturers, whatever you want to call them. But we were realizing the most important thing here for us is literacy and numeracy, and we've left them at a lower level. It just didn't seem to make sense. And we were also aware that we still had quality issues, pedagogical issues, dropouts, young people starting programs and not finishing them. We weren't getting the quality we wanted. So we thought we need to align everything here and really raise the game. So we were fearful of what PIAC was going to tell us as well. We'd spent a lot of money. So since 2007, as I said, we've had ongoing developments in the professionalisation of vocational lecturers and tutors. The aim was to secure parity of esteem with teachers. Now, as I've said, all vocational lecturers must have a degree and a 2-year postgraduate certificate in education. We're working towards, soon we will have them recognised under this General Teaching Council umbrella. But we had this lower level requirement for essential skills. Those who were teaching, the most vulnerable people, we were saying you need to have a lower level. To us, it didn't make sense. So from 2011, we implemented new regulations. We said, if you're a new entrant to the profession, because we recognised that with all those 1,000 we had trained, we couldn't suddenly say, you're not recognised anymore, because we wouldn't have anybody. So we had to protect the recognition of those who were already qualified. But if you're a new entrant, we said you must have a degree in a relevant subject. Now, when I say 50%, we've a list of what's considered acceptable, but you could have English and history if it was literacy. You could have business communications and something else, So as long as the major part, or as at least 50% of your degree could be deemed to be relevant. With numeracy, we were finding that we were actually getting better numeracy development on some of our vocational programs, particularly with young people, from those who were teaching them maybe engineering or construction, because they could see the relevance. So we've said, use your engineers. No longer do you have to have this specialist cohort, but use your engineers. Use anyone who's got the 50% miles significant part of their degree. They must do the postgraduate certificate in education, which has an essential skills slant or modules really relating to the teaching of essential skills. And we protected the recognition of existing essential skills teachers. But We knew that that's a cohort that we really still need to raise. So we have some good, but we introduced CPD. And it's voluntary, but nothing's ever quite voluntary with us. Where poor quality is identified, we say we expect to see enrolments on the CPD modules. So how do we identify poor quality? I should have said that we have, all of these programs are subject to internal and external evaluation. External evaluation is where inspectors go in. So anywhere we spend government money, we have an inspectorate who go in and inspect the quality. And we would have essential skills specialist inspectors who will go in and inspect in all those different settings. Now, where we find that the quality is not good, first thing they have to do is put in an improvement plan to us to say how they're going to address these improvements. Otherwise, we'll remove their right to deliver. So in that improvement plan, we would expect to see enrolments on CPD programs. And we've worked with the local university to put together a range of CPD programs that carry so many points that they can put into like a master's degree and build on it. But typically, it'll mix and match from these different headings. Okay, so you can see there the kind of thing the kind of options that we're trying to give them to basically raise. As I say, the biggest thing for us is pedagogical development. The way forward, what have we still got to do? Well, in moving forward, we have this compulsory postgraduate certificate in education now, brackets essential skills, because it's for our essential skills tutors, for new entrants to the profession. We have continuous professional development opportunities in place for underperformance, and on a more positive for those who want to engage. And we need to review the curriculum. We need a big curriculum refresh, all the digital literacy, etc. You know that I've learned about so much this week. We need to take a look at how we're doing that. So we need a big curriculum refresh. We need to look at the assessment, because we're in a bit of a situation where we're coming out with lots of qualifications, and yet we've had PIAC that basically says we haven't moved forward that much, not as much as we'd like to. And we need to look at the delivery methods. And that's where we are, folks.
Yeah, very good.
Thank you.